Okay, so the quadratic formula, hopefully we worked with it a little bit the other day. It's the most common way to solve a quadratic. One of the reasons for that is that it always works. You don't have to worry about finding the right factors, or with completing a square you sometimes get stuck on the fractions and all this, so it's a very convenient way to do it. Um, you should be able to derive the actual formula, because it just comes from taking this quadratic. So this is the general form to take a quadratic where a, b, and c are numbers. So let's say that I was working on 2x squared plus 5x minus 7 is equal to 0. I would say, well, a is 2, b is 5, and c is a negative 7, and we're going to complete the square in this. Well, you guys wrote sort of a general method a while back, and a lot of you guys said, well, you need to divide out by a, because you can't have it say ax squared. So we're going to do that. So we're going to divide by a. And then you want to bring, this represents a number, so c over a needs to be on the left side. So that's negative c over a when you move it over. And then you need to write this as a square, so that becomes an x. It's clearly going to be a plus. And then what do you need? Well, you need half of this. So you need b over a times a half. So that's b over 2a. And then on the other side, you need to add that thing squared. So b over 2a squared needs to be over here to balance out the equation. So let's balance out the equation a little bit and add and subtract or whatever we're supposed to be doing. So this ends up being a negative c over a plus b squared, and 2 squared is 4, and then you get a squared over here. Well, that means that you have to make a common denominator. So I need to give myself a little bit more room. So what do I need to multiply by over here? Well, I have an a, I need to make it an a squared, so I need an a. And I don't have a 4. So if I multiply by 4a over 4a, then I will have a common denominator and I can add. So I'm going to do that on the next step. So what do we get? X plus b over 2a squared equals a negative c times 4a. So that will be a negative 4ac plus b squared, all divided by 4a squared. How do you get rid of a square? Take the square root. So x plus b over 2a is equal to, don't forget the plus and minus. I'm going to rewrite the order a little bit, and you can start to see it take shape. 4a squared. Move the plus, or the positive b2a to the other side. So the solution to any quadratic will be a negative b divided by 2a plus or minus the square root of, I actually don't need to make it that large, because remember a long time ago we said that taking the square root of the fraction would be taking the square root of the top and the bottom. So if you do this on the top, nothing really happens, because we don't really know what that sum equals. So you're going to just write that as the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So, but in the denominator, the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of a squared is a, so that ends up with 2a. And with completing the square, you should get the same value here. So this is a good little reminder that I probably did it right. Since we do have a common denominator, it's usually written this way. And that would be the quadratic formula that you guys are somewhat familiar with at this point. And this is something that you ought to know. Well, you need to know, you should be able to complete the square, but you also are responsible for knowing the formula. And I think I included a link on the notes for that, so you can type that in if you need some help in terms of, how can I memorize it? Other than just writing it down a lot and doing a lot, follow the link, there's some suggestions there. Okay. I need to pick this up, take that with me. If I look at that particular quadratic formula, the format of it, then based on that, I can come up with 3 different types of solutions. And we'll look at the different types of solutions through a problem. So here's an equation. I'm going to find out what its answers are by doing, let's see, b is the 5. So a here is 1, b is 5, c is a -3. So it's a negative b, it's a -5, plus or minus the square root of b squared. It's 25 minus 4 times 1 times a -3, divided by 2 times 1. So -5 plus or minus, that's 12, becomes a plus 12, so that is the square root of 37, which I don't know, divided by 2. Okay, so what do I mean with types of answers? Well, there are two answers here. The two answers are -5 plus the square root of 37 over 2 and the -5 minus the square root of 37 over 2. So in terms of types, we could get two real numbers. That is one type of solution that you can get. Okay, keep in mind that this could mean two integers or slash fractions, rational numbers. They just have to be real. So anytime we end up with a square root that either exists or does not exist, that still leaves a value here, that gives me two answers. So two real numbers. Looking ahead a little bit, graphically, quadratics, and most of you guys have seen quadratic graph at some point, or at least know the name of it, but a quadratic is a parabola. And so this particular one probably looks a little like this. The square root of 37 is more than 5, so it might look like this. So a picture that goes with something like that would be this. Two real answers, because I get two intersections on the x-axis. Okay, what else could happen? Well, I could have this. If I want to use the quadratic formula on this, you still need to make it say 0, because c is not a -20, c is going to be a +20. Okay, doing the same thing here. So it's a -5 plus or minus the square root of 5 squared is 25, minus 4, a is 1, and c is 20, all divided by 2 times 1. That will, it's just going to be 2, I think. -5 plus or minus. So 25 minus 80. Well, that's definitely -10. So 25 minus 80 is a -55. Divided by 2. We cannot have a negative under the square root. So the second case is that we have two imaginary numbers. And actually for now we're going to say that there are no real solutions. So when you get this answer, you can say that there are no real solutions. And no real solutions means, graphically speaking, that we would have a quadratic that is completely above or below the x-axis. So this quadratic would go up. Let's say it looks a little like this. So graphically, no real solutions means you do not have an intercept on the x-axis if you were to graph it. So that's the second case. The third case is a little special. So let's see what do we got here. 4x squared plus 12x plus 9, everything's on the left. A is 4, B is 12, C is 9, so let's fill it in. So I'm going to leave that in blue. Sorry. So solving this would give you x equals a -12 plus or minus the square root of 12 squared, which is 144, minus 4 times a times c, divided by 2 times a, and that's 2 times 4. Clean up that mess a little, a -12 plus or minus 4 times 4 is 36 times 9. 4 times 4, sorry, is not 36. 4 times 4 is 16 times 9 is actually 144. So we get the square root of 0. Divided by 2 times 4 is 8. Well, the square root of 0 is 0, so this ends up being a -12 divided by 8, which is a -4/3. It's early for me. Divided by 4, that's a -3/2. That's only one answer. So that is also a possibility. One real answer is also possible. It doesn't happen a lot, but it is possible. And in this case, this would be called a double. And I'll try to show you that in a second why. And graphically, it looks like this. So this, you know what, I can make a straight line. This particular graph would look a whole lot like this. -1, at a -3/2, this parabola would touch the x-axis and then immediately go back up. Okay. Why do we call it a double? Well, since we ended up with a fraction answer, hopefully you've put together, well, this was probably factorable. And 4x squared is 2x squared. So let's see, that's a 2x squared. Like this, and 9 is a 3 that's being squared. So I'm guessing that this is 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. That's 4x squared, 2 times 3 is 6, plus another 6, that's 12, so that's right. Which could be written as 2x plus 3 squared. And that gives you that -3/2 when you solve for it. So how often do we get the answer -3/2 as an answer? Twice. That's why we call it a double. Okay? Keep in mind that I said here that it touches. Alright, so quick recap. Well, not just a quick recap, but tying it together a little bit. So what happens here? You get two answers when we have a square root that is positive. You don't have any answers, no real solutions, when you have a square root that is negative. And we get one answer when we have a square root that is equal to 0. So the type of answer only depends on this part. It only depends on the value of b squared minus 4ac. And that's such an important value or concept that we have a name for it. That's called the discriminant. So the type of answer can be found by looking at what we know as the discriminant. And the discriminant would be only this part of your quadratic formula. So if you just want to know what type of answer you have, then that's all you really look at. Alright? And I think that's it for today. Yep. Thanks.